everyone over, if your pies have rich and rustic, golden and gorgeous crusts just like these, any cook can add some artistry for a swoon-worthy pie. Tara Bench is going to show us how it's done. It's so good to see you.
You too.
We love when we get this girl in our kitchen, the big New York City talent here teaching us in time for Thanksgiving. It's hard to believe that something like pies are subject to trends, but you say there's definitely something happening this year with the Thanksgiving pie.
It's pie crust. It's awesome. It's been going on online and Instagram, and you see all these beautiful food pictures of pies, and it's all about the crust.
Even I'm noticing it, and I'm not a huge foodie, but on all of the Instagram feeds I follow, the detail and the design, it's layered, it's piled, it's fun.
It's inspirational, so let's talk about how to do it today.
I want to know.
Okay.
Teach us.
All right, so the basics for creating an artistic pie crust is, let's start with a lattice.
Okay.
So I want to show you an easy way to make a lattice top pie, because some people don't like weaving it in and out, and then the crust melts and all of that.
Tedious, yeah.
It's very tedious. So if you'll cut me some strips.
Sure.
I'm not very particular.
Oh.
I think.
Well, good, because that strip just went way off track. Okay.
They can be thick, they can be thin. That's the fun part of it, and you can create your own design. But I lay one side down, and I fold every other one over.
So they don't have to be even, really?
No, and you can see some of my other pies we'll get to in a minute. It's fun to have different shapes and sizes.
Okay.
So this is the trick. You can just lay strips flat, and then you only have to fold a couple of them. I'm going to fold those back over now.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And
every other.
It creates this basket weave.
Which is always so classic, so pretty.
Yes, without you having to weave it in and out and in and out. So let me do one more, and we'll make it really
look
like
not so tedious. And not,
yes.
Tara's carefully selecting the strips that I rolled that are at least
Let's do this one.
semi-straight.
Let's go. You have to think about every other one, right?
Yeah, it takes
and I
a little
love
bit of
that.
brain
Look at
power.
that thick one with some of those thin ones.
Oh, it does work.
And then what you'll do is trim these off with some scissors and fold that extra crust that you left right over the top.
Just wrap and roll it up.
And then crimp that so you have a pretty edge.
Love
so
it.
you've hidden those stripes and all of that. So that's the basic lattice. And I want to talk about, before we move on, working with your pie dough.
Please, yeah.
You want it to be really cold.
Okay.
So I had rolled this out and put it in the fridge because it got a little warm. And you can keep putting it back in the fridge or the freezer to keep it cold, because once that butter and shortening melts, you lose your flakiness.
It starts to flip and flop and you get frustrated.
And I love a butter crust. I actually mix butter and shortening in my crust.
Oh, do you?
It creates a good flaky and flavor and all of that.
Okay, all right, here's the basic. Let's get a little fancy. How did you do that logo, by the way?
Okay.
Studio 5 symbol.
So Studio 5, I printed that logo online. And then I cut it out, and we did, you know, a little paring knife, an X-Acto knife, and just baked it out.
That's fantastic.
So that's one of the ideas that we'll talk about in a minute, is decorating a store-bought pie and how to do it. But some of the examples of lattice, I've twisted some and put some cutouts around the edges.
Look at this. You have really mixed it up in the texture and the treatment.
Yes, and it's so fun, and you can do that on a big pie. One of the things that you'll see that's a trend is you don't see crimping. You see these edges that are so beautifully decorated, and one of them is a braid.
Beautiful.
And that braid is really easy. You just cut 3 little strips and braid it like you would hair.
Really?
And put it on there with a little egg wash.
So you do it separately. You don't do it. You do it on your own, like on a wax paper, and then you wrap it around
and
the
then
actual
you lift
pie
it up
tin.
and wrap it around.
Okay.
Cold dough, that will help. And then I use a little egg wash. It's glue. It's food glue, right? Before you bake it. And I have paint brushes that I use just for food, but you can use pastry brushes too.
This is the kind of artist she is. This is the level that she's at.
And so a pastry brush you can get on a pie and just brush it with a little egg wash. It makes it shiny and beautiful. For those little details, I use these paint brushes. So that's my little toolkit.
I love it.
And then sprinkle it with some beautiful sugar, and you'll get a nice crust.
For that pretty
So those are
finish.
some details for that.
Okay.
I want to show you another trend.
These are the layers I was talking about, these cutout layers.
So any kind of cookie cutter, and you can just, you may need 1.5 to 2 crusts to just do the top.
Wow.
But it's no more do you see just a layer of crust.
Right, and where are we getting these? Just any baking store?
Any baking store, Williams-Sonoma, you know, all of those.
There went your toolkit.
Baking stores have collections of cookie cutters.
I just think that's so fun.
Dig in the bottom of your cookie cutter bin. I'm sure you have little fun cutters that you can use.
Okay.
So this is another example of those lattice and braids that I've woven in and out, and it makes this beautiful crust.
Check this out, the detail, and you've mixed a couple of the different trends you talked about, like you mentioned.
Yes.
The braiding, the lattice.
So hand me one of those straws. I'll show you a fun little trick. So my niece actually helped me do this the other day. You take a straw. This is a smoothie straw, but you can use a little one. Oh, thanks. And you just cut out dough. and pop it out of the straw, and you have these fun little decorations.
That's your rosebud. That's your little flower center.
The rosebud, you just take some dough and twist it around a ball of dough and make a rose. These are some little cutouts for the edges.
And this is nothing against your niece, but it really is those Play-Doh skills put into action, right?
It totally is. She was helping me. She even designed this one and came up with the heart. So get the kids involved. It's all about the layers, and this mini lattice is so beautiful. So play around, see what looks good. You can bake these with that egg wash to make them beautiful. And now I want to tell you a few little tricks and hacks.
We are all ears.
If you don't want to make your own pie crust, which it's delicious, your own pie crust.
So, did you hear the subtle threat there? You may want to, however, if you don't,
buy a pumpkin pie and create something beautiful for the top. So these, I've pre-baked these designs, and I just use some store-bought pie crust, store-bought pumpkin pie. I used little cutters and cut out awesome designs, baked it on a sheet tray, and then it's my pie topper.
Oh my gosh, that becomes the topper. Stretch it over the pre-bought.
And this is something fun the kids can get into, create a design. We did a little turkey.
Love it, love it.
This is another frozen pie crust in the shell. You buy those in the freezer section. And what you can do is, if you're making another pie yourself, use the edges to cut little designs and add those to the edge.
Like so a
then
border.
So then you're creating that trend, because that crimp never looks beautiful anyway.
Right.
And then it looks like a homemade pie.
Okay.
This is the little pie cookies, is what I call them. So if you pre-bake those little crust cookies,
you can just add them on like confetti.
Yes. Then you can decorate however you want. We've got a little pumpkin there for our pumpkin pie.
Here's the goal. No plain pies, only pretty pies, because as Tara Bench has proved, it's a lot easier than you might think. This is beautiful. Thank you so much.
I hope you're inspired. And my pie recipe, my pie crust recipe is on TaraTeaspoon.com.
Look for that, TaraTeaspoon.com. We'll post a link on our website, and many other great recipes and holiday fun to come, I'm sure.
Yes, I love it.
Tara, thank you. Great to see you. Happy Thanksgiving.